Good morning. It is so good to see you all. Our opening words this morning are from the Reverend Eric Walker Wickstrom. Here today in this place and with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice light our way. I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit to sing in number 347, Gather the Spirit, which you'll find in your beautifully bound gray on the inside hymnal.
Good morning. It is so wonderful to see such a full sanctuary. And I bet our Zoom is pretty full too, and I'm so happy that you are here with us too. It seems there must be something special going on here. I'm Reverend Annie Gonzalez, your acting senior minister for only a little bit longer. And we are so excited to welcome here to First Parish in Bedford today our candidate for our new senior minister, Reverend Jamie Hinson-Rieger, who will be performing our worship this morning. And I know you've come to see him, so I'll keep this pretty brief. But we are glad that you are here with us today, whether you are returning after a break, whether you're a regular, or whether you're someone new checking us out. Here at First Parish in Bedford, people have been gathering for centuries to try to understand a better truth and a better way to live together. And yes, indeed, it is our candidating week, which means it is the week that we are getting to know Reverend Jamie, so that on May 7th, 1 week from today, we can joyfully and with good, well-informed spirits vote to call him to be our next senior minister, we very much hope. And so please, it seems that you are here, so you've been paying attention, but keep paying attention. The search committee has been sending us all the ways that we can better get to know Reverend Jamie throughout the week. There are Zooms, there are in-person conversations, there are meet and greets, there's a family pizza night. Check it all out. It's online where you can go to First Parish's website, uubedford.org, find the icon that says Candidate Week, click on that, find all the information you will need to make good use of this week, including the 12 p.m. conversation today after worship, after our festive community hour that you can attend here or on Zoom. Another exciting event that is coming up that you have gotten emails about, if you have looked at all at your email account, is the Plant Fair. Woo. And you know, for so long people have been saying we want the Plant Fair back, and now the Plant Fair is coming back because of devoted volunteers who are giving a lot of time and energy to make it happen, and they need all of us to join that crew. So please do find those emails coming from Liz Hannigan, B. Brunkhorst, other folks organizing, and find your slot to sign up to support this endeavor so we can have a fantastic, fun community event that goes well for everybody. And lastly, on the topic of everyone pitching in, thank you so much. So many of you have given very generously to this year's stewardship campaign. Quite a lot of people have raised their pledges, even beyond the 8% we were suggesting and asking for, and that's incredibly generous. Thank you so much. If by any chance you have not managed to fill out that form or call the office or send in that pledge card, we will be contacting you. We're gonna find you and get an answer one way or the other. The answer can be no, I can't this year, but we need an answer. So just, be proactive, get it filled out if you haven't. And on that note, I will invite you all to rise in body or in spirit and recite our unison affirmation that we say in English and also in Spanish in memory of the sanctuary guest we welcomed here for 3 years. It's written in your order of worship. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en espíritu de amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Good morning. I am Reverend Jamie, and I am so delighted to be with you all of this Sunday. Our service today is called 3 Stories About Listening. And our first story about listening that I'd like to share with you right now is called The New Superhero on the Block. The new superhero on the block. So, it was the first Wednesday of the month in Galactic City, the city of heroes. And the first Wednesday of every month was Galactic Hero Meet and Greet Day, when all of the new heroes would assemble at the Hall of Super Justice to do 2 things: eat breakfast tacos and compare their superpowers. And before long, the Hall of Super Justice was packed with superheroes showing off. "I'm Captain Stupendous," stood a man in green tights with a bright orange cape. Introducing himself, he always led the new member meet and greets. He said, "My powers are super strength, invulnerability, and X-ray vision. I got my powers when the last Captain Stupendous chose me to wear his alien super tights from another planet." Captain Stupendous turned to a person standing in the front row who looked like he was covered all over with little rocks. He said, "You, new guy, what's your story?" "My name is Meteor Man," he said. "I can shoot across the sky as fast as a meteor, and my rock-like skin is impervious to bullets. I got my powers when I was hit in the head by a falling piece of radioactive space asteroid." "You got hit in the head by an asteroid?" said Captain Stupendous. "It was very small," said Meteor Man. "Cool," said Captain Stupendous. He pointed at a woman in a gray cloak. "You, what's your story?" "They call me the Quantum Avenger," she said. "I can walk through walls and be in two places at the same time. I got my powers when I fell into a particle accelerator that blasted me with boson quark rays. Also, I can go backwards in time." "Whoa," said Captain Stupendous, impressed. "That's awesome." He turned to a man in the back. "Guy in the back, what's your deal?" "I'm empathetic listening man," he said. "My superpower is I listen really well." You listen well?" said Captain Stupendous. "Yes, I give you my full attention. I don't interrupt. I really make space for people to feel heard." "Is that even a superpower?" asked Meteor Man. "I got my powers from my aunt," said Empathetic Listening Man. "As a child, I would sit on her lap every evening while she worked on her knitting in her rocking chair." "I don't think you're in the right place," the Quantum Avenger started to say. But just then, the Hall of Super Justice shook violently, and there was a loud boom, and the assembled heroes looked up in surprise as the roof of the Hall of Super Justice was peeled back, just like someone opening a can of tuna, and in the sudden daylight, they could see Roboto, the 10-story tall robot, attacking the building. Huge chunks of debris fell from the ceiling towards the startled heroes. "Look out!" they yelled. The falling rocks bounced off of Meteor Man's impenetrable skin. The Quantum Avenger yelled, "Phase shift," and the rocks passed harmlessly through her as though she were a ghost. Captain Stupendous deflected a giant piece of concrete just as it was about to crush Empathetic Listening Man, said, "You've got to get out of here. This is a job for real heroes." The galactic heroes tried to fight off Roboto, but they were powerless against him. Captain Stupendous's super punches bounced right off of Roboto's metal skin. Meteor Man's asteroid beams had no effect. The Quantum Avenger tried phase shifting to disrupt his circuitry. It did no good. "Must destroy Hall of Super Justice," said Roboto in his metallic robot voice. "Roboto," called Empathetic Listening Man up from the ground at Roboto's feet. Can we talk about this?" "Must destroy Hall of Super Justice," said Roboto. "You seem like something's really bothering you," said Empathetic Listening Man. "This isn't like you." "Roboto acting out," said Roboto. "Must destroy Hall of Super Justice." "If you'd like to talk about it, I'm here," said Empathetic Listening Man. I made hot chocolate." Roboto stopped. "Roboto can have marshmallows?" "Of course," said Empathetic Listening Man. "Now, come on. What's going on, big guy?" Roboto stopped attacking the building and sat down. Lately, Roboto feeling like friends not really listen when Roboto have something to say. While the other heroes watched in disbelief, Roboto and Empathetic Listening Man talked all the rest of the afternoon. When they were done, Empathetic Listening Man gave one of Roboto's enormous metal fingers a hug. It was like hugging a telephone pole. "Roboto, sorry for building," Roboto said. "Roboto will help clean up." And from that day on, Empathetic Listening Man took his place at the Hall of Super Justice. The other galactic heroes liked having someone around who really listened to them. When Roboto came to visit, they listened to him too, and there was always hot chocolate with marshmallows.
That was wonderful. Thank you, James. Wonderful. So all our lives, we receive gifts, and we do our best to give from the bounty of our blessings to others around us. And the reason we come to church, one of the reasons, is that this is a place we remember how much we have received in our lives, and we find within ourselves all this gratitude. And from all of that, we come here, and we pass around this sweet little basket, and we say, hey, how goes it with you? And we have a phrase that we say every time, and I thought, well, most every time, and I thought we might be able to share it with Reverend Jamie because it reminds us of the spiritual practice we have of giving. But maybe I'll start it, and hopefully it comes from the floor. Freely we have, freely we give. And our church receives so much from the people we make our church into who we are together. Freely we have received, freely may we give. Our morning's offering will now be most gratefully received.
Our second story about listening today, I'll move this a little bit, is an interactive story, which means that you are all going to have a role to play in telling it. When you came in today, you should have gotten a picture of a bug or a frog or a bird. And later on in the story, depending on which picture you got, you're going to be making some noise. So, if you didn't get a picture for whatever reason, just decide for yourself if you want to be a bug or a frog or a bird. And if you got a picture, but now you secretly wish you had a different picture, just switch it up and decide for yourself if you want to be a bug, a frog, or a bird. We will never know. And on Zoom, you can play along at home. Just decide if you want to be a bug or a frog or a bird. And when we get to that part of the story, we'll give you more instructions. And Lisa Marie is going to help me out with that. So this is a true story. It's a true story, but we're going to tell it a little bit more like a parable so that we can get at the heart of what is a complicated story. And if that parable speaks to you, then I encourage you to then go on to learn the whole story in all of its details. Once upon a time, there was a woman named Rachel Carson, who was a Unitarian, as it happens, and like many Unitarians, she was in love with the natural world, and because she wanted to learn more about nature, she became a scientist. And because she wanted to share her love of nature, she became a writer. And her gift, in particular, was to be able to observe nature with her senses and with her mind, to experience it, to listen to it, and then to understand it, and to communicate that sense of wonder that she felt to others. She spent her whole life teaching people about the beauty of nature. Rachel Carson once wrote, "To stand at the edge of the sea, to sense the ebb and flow of the tides, to feel the breath of a mist moving over a great salt marsh, to watch the flight of shorebirds that have swept up and down the surf line of the continents for untold thousands of years." She said, "That is to have knowledge of things that are as nearly eternal as any earthly life can be." And because Rachel Carson loved nature so much, she listened and she paid attention, because we naturally want to listen and pay attention to the things that we love. And so she would listen to nature all around her, and there was a lot to listen to, because nature, as it turns out, is pretty noisy. All of the different creatures all around us have a lot to say. And you are all now going to help us recreate the sounds of noisy nature. So, for example, in the wetlands around Rachel, the insects would say like, "Chee, chee, 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 chee." And so when I hold up a picture of the insects later in the story, if you have a picture of a bug, an insect, you're going to make that noise. Chee, 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 chee. And we can try it now. Chee, 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 chee. And when I put the sign down, you'll stop making the noise. All right? Chee, 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 chee. Exactly. Awesome. And the frogs who lived in the wetlands and ate the insects, they also made a noise. You know what a frog makes? It's ribbit, right? So when I hold up the sign, frogs, ribbit, 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 and when I put it down, ribbit, 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 ribbit. Awesome. And the birds who lived in the wetlands and ate the frogs, they made a noise too, and that noise was like, cree, 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 cree. So when Lisa Marie holds up the bird sign, birds go, cree, cree, cree. Cree, cree. Yes. You all are awesome. So as you can imagine, when they all got going all at once, that was a lot of noise. There's a lot of life in the wetlands. But then, one day, some dangerous chemicals got into that water in the wetlands. And the reason that happened was because humans had begun spraying a poison called DDT. They were spraying it on the food crops to kill destructive insects that were damaging the crops, destructive from a human perspective. But the DDT was killing a lot of insects indiscriminately, not just the destructive ones, and that poison they sprayed on the crops settled onto the ground, and when the rain came, it washed it away into the wetlands. And there, over time, that DDT, that chemical, built up in the water. And one by one, the animals of the wetlands were exposed to it, the insects, and then the frogs, and then the birds. They began to get sick, and some of them even died. So, let's create our lively, noisy wetlands as it was before the DDT came, right? So first the insects making their noise, chee, 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 chee. And then the frogs chiming in, ribbit, 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 ribbit. And then the birds, all that beautiful sound of life. But then the poison got to the insects and made them sick, and they became silent. So insects go silent. And then the frogs that ate the insects got sick too, and the frogs went silent. And then the birds that ate the frogs got sick too, and the birds went silent. And where there was all that wonderful, noisy life in the wetlands, all that was left was silence. And that was the silence that Rachel Carson heard, as loud as an alarm bell ringing, because it was a silence that she knew meant something had gone terribly wrong. So Rachel Carson wrote a book called Silent Spring, warning people about what it means when the sounds of life go silent. And because of her book, and because of her courage in speaking out, and because of a lot of other people who listened to her and also spoke out, people stopped using DDT in the same way, and they became much more careful about what they introduced into the ecosystem. And people began to think more carefully about how all of life is interconnected. And this is a lesson we are still learning. It is one of the most important things we try to live out as Unitarian Universalists. And when people made different choices, after a while, the insects came back, and the frogs came back, and the birds came back. Rachel Carson wrote, "Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts. There is something infinitely healing," she said, "in the repeated refrains of nature," in all that lovely noise. So I encourage us all to become good listeners to the sounds of life all around us, to hear what nature is telling us with all of her different ways of communicating, and then to use our own voice on nature's behalf so that we are not silent, and to do our own part to care for the web of life all around us so we never find ourselves in a world that has fallen silent. Thank you. That was so Beautiful. I want to express so much appreciation for all of the wonderful youth choirs today. Thank you so much. Let's give them some appreciation again. I was told that there's a clock back here that dings on the hour as a warning to talkative preachers. I don't think we're in any danger of that this morning. So our third story on listening this morning is a true story, and it comes from the first year of my and Suzanne's marriage. So, my wife Suzanne and I were out for a drive. We were off on a day trip. We'd just gotten past the outskirts of Indianapolis. We were driving through some little small Indiana town, and apparently one of us had accidentally left an alarm set on our cell phone. I don't remember whose phone it was. But the cell phone alarm went off in the car while we were driving, and it was really loud. Right, this is like 17 years ago. This is an old school alarm. It wasn't like beachy noises or a little chime or like a popular tune. It was like, ma, 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 right? It's designed to be irritating. And I was driving the car, so I couldn't fish around for the phone. So I asked Suzanne if she would just grab the phone and turn it off. So Suzanne started looking around for the phone, and she couldn't find it, and it's going, ma, ma, ma. And I could clearly hear the sound of the phone coming from the right side of the car, from Suzanne's side. So I said, see if it's on the right side of the door, like maybe it's in the pocket thingy. It must have dropped in there. And Suzanne said, no, the sound is coming from your side of the car. It must have fallen down between the driver's seat and the door. And meanwhile, the phone is ma, 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 and I said, no, it's not by my door. I can clearly hear it coming from your door. And Suzanne said, I looked by my door, it's not there, and anyway, I can clearly hear it coming from your side of the car. Ma, ma, ma. We're both starting to get a little annoyed now. It's on your side. Just look. You look, it's on your side. And so finally, fed up with the incessant ma, 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 and my partner's now infuriating phone beep hearing wrongness, I turned into the nearest parking lot, and I stopped the car, and I put it in park, and turned off the engine, and as if on cue, we both stormed out of the car at once. It was beautiful. If there were an Olympic sport called synchronized arguing, we would have taken the gold. Our doors flew open simultaneously, and we each wheeled around to the other side of the car, passing in unison, each determined to point and show the other, see, it was right there. But it wasn't there. For either of us, having switched places with Suzanne, I could now clearly hear the phone coming from my side of the car, just as Suzanne had said. And Suzanne could clearly hear it coming from her side of the car, just as I had said. So now we're just like looking at each other across this empty expanse of car. And finally I reached out and popped open the center armrest where the phone was going man, 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 the whole time, smack dab right between us in the middle of the car. We had a good laugh. And having learned our lesson, we never argued again. So, why did I pick 3 stories about listening for my first service with you to kick off this 8-day odyssey called Candidating Week? I want you to know that if I am so fortunate as to be called to be your senior minister, my most important job, particularly in that first year of ministry, will be to listen to you. Right? My number one job as your new minister will be to listen, to hear your stories, to hear what you love about this community, to hear your concerns, to learn what makes First Parish in Bedford so special, to learn what makes this community your community. This is your sacred space. Right? And it is a serious act of trust that I would be invited into this sacred space, and I take that trust very seriously and with all due humility. So that is the first thing that I wanted to say. My most important job is to listen and that is what I will do. Now, it's actually an interesting thing about that beeping cell phone in the car. Suzanne and I actually had all of the information we needed to locate the cell phone, right? If the phone was to her left and to my right, if we had taken each other's stories seriously and followed the area of overlap, it would have led us right to where the phone was. We each had a piece of the truth, but we needed both of our perspectives to find the phone. And one of the things that I love about Unitarian Universalism is how we consciously make room for and honor differences of perspective. And our fourth principle says we affirm a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, but the beautiful thing is we choose to do that in community. We don't have to, right? I could conduct my own free and responsible search for truth and meaning in splendid isolation. I could do that without ever even getting up from my desk. But as UUs, we choose to undertake this search in community because we believe that the diversity of perspectives we bring together is one of our great strengths. We believe our diversity of perspectives is one of our great strengths. And whatever I think I know, whatever you think you know, the truth is always something bigger than that. And so we need each other. And through the multiplicity of beliefs and perspectives and theologies and life experiences that we share together, we believe we have access to a richer and deeper understanding of the world and of life than we would otherwise have. And I say all this to you because First Parish is a theologically diverse community, like all UU communities, and because I am coming into this diverse space asking to serve as your minister, you may naturally want to know, will I honor the diversity of this community? And I want you to know that I honor that diversity, but more than that, I am excited by that diversity. I am eager to learn and listen and to hear that diversity because that is the UU way. And it is why our communities are such inspiring places where we can all grow together. And what makes this possible at base is our ability to listen to one another, right? So listening really is one of our UU superpowers. It is one of the chief tools by which we build the beloved community, by hearing each other's stories. We don't always do it perfectly. Of course we don't. We're human. But we try and we try again, and we keep practicing and we keep growing in our ability to listen with humility and empathy and curiosity. And then even more than this, third reason we're talking about listening. Listening takes us outside of ourselves and connects us to the world all around us. I want to acknowledge that people listen in all kinds of different ways, right? So when I say listening, I don't just mean listening with our ears. I mean paying attention, attending to. And our seventh principle in particular asks us to pay attention to the interdependent web of life of which we are a part, meaning our connection first to our neighbors, the wider communities around us, and to the larger story of humanity in which we all participate, and then even further to consider with wonder and reverence our connection to the natural world that nurtures and sustains us, right? To consider our relationship to all living things. And if we listen to what nature is telling us, if we pay attention, we cannot help but hear, like Rachel Carson, the alarm bells sounding, loud and clear, coming from all directions across all different natural media, the alarm bells saying that the web is tearing. The web is already torn in so many places, is torn. And the call to repair the breach in the interdependent web of life, the breach that we in part have made, is one of the most urgent calls that Unitarian Universalists today are asked to hear. And so one of the many things that inspires me about this congregation is your environmental justice work and the energy and commitment with which you are listening to that call. And I know you hear the call of justice along many different dimensions, and this particular call is one of the most urgent. So related to that, I want to offer one last take on listening as we're wrapping up. Dr. Catherine Hayhoe, a climate scientist, writes extensively about how we can begin to address climate change, how we can begin to repair this breach in the web. And she says the number one thing we need to do is talk about it. She says we all need to be talking about climate change in whatever places and contexts we can start a conversation. In our homes, across dinner tables, in our workplaces, at schools, in our social circles, at the gym, at play dates, across the game table, wherever two or more are gathered, she says, we should be inviting people into a conversation about climate change, about our changing world. And we need to be able to talk to each other about this issue, whatever our religious beliefs, whatever our backgrounds, whatever our political affiliations. But this is the thing. The conversations we need to have with each other, the conversations we really need to have about climate change, or about racial justice, or about gun violence, or about economic justice, right? The conversations that can open hearts and spur change and lead to action, they all start with listening. Not with talking points, not with speeches, not with persuading. They start with listening. To hear from one another what we love about the earth, to hear how our hearts break for our children, to hear what our concerns are for our future and our children's future and their children's future. And then from there, from a place of listening, we can begin to understand how we're all in this together. How we're all in this together. It's not the only thing we need to do, but it is something that each one of us can do, whoever we are, wherever we are. And the listening skills that we learn to build the beloved community here within these walls are the same skills we use to build the world of our dreams outside of these walls. So the spiritual work we're doing is all of a piece. The community that we're building here is helping build the world of our dreams outside these walls. Which brings me back to this. Listening is our superpower. So let us listen with love to each other. Let us listen with care to life all around us. Let us listen to the call of justice. And let us remember, whenever we sit down to listen together, that everything is better with hot chocolate and marshmallows. Blessed be and amen. Our closing hymn today is number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Won't you please rise in body or spirit? If we cannot sing like angels or speak before thousands, we can listen like Unitarian Universalists. With curiosity, with compassion, and with a shared commitment to build a community that can change the world with our love. May it be so, and go in peace.